Hello, my name is Sammy Bryant. I'm going to be teaching this part of the course on obesity in children. And now we're just going to watch this video before we start so that we can kind of understand the nutrition aspect of it.
Many health problems are related to poor nutrition and have significant effects on the digestive system. Most of these health problems can be linked to the long-term consumption of sugary and fatty foods, increasing our risk of being overweight or obese. This risk starts before we are even born. When pregnant women consume unhealthy foods containing excess amounts of sugar and fat, they are more likely to have overweight children and develop associated health problems. A good start to nutrition for a baby is providing them with breast milk. This provides the best source of nutrients and reduces the risk of infection, digestive diseases, and obesity. Babies fed on high-protein formula milk are more likely to suffer childhood obesity and are at an increased risk of adult obesity too. Young children who get the right nutrition are 10% more likely to overcome life-threatening diseases, become healthier adults, and have healthier families. Childhood obesity is rising at an alarming rate, increasing by almost 40% in the last 25 years. If current trends continue, there will be approximately 70 million obese children worldwide by 2025. More worryingly, weight problems can be passed from generation to generation through our DNA, creating potential major health problems for future generations. So, healthy nutrition in the first 1,000 days of life, including breast milk and foods low in sugar, will help protect you, your children, and future generations from digestive and other health disorders.
So I just wanted to share that video because I feel like it laid out a good base on obesity, but I'm going to be diving in more about how it's not just about nutrition, although it is an important part, it can also be about genetics and things like that. So I hope this helped you. We're going to first start with the definition of obesity. This is when a child has a body mass index, or BMI, which is what I'll be using for the rest of the presentation, that is at or above the 95th percentile for their age. It is a complex disease that results from socioeconomic, environmental, and or genetic factors. So this can be things like poverty, or environmental can be some of the GMOs that are added to food, and genetic factors can be any type of variance in the genes. Obesity alone affects 14.4 million children and teens nationwide and has become the leading chronic disease among kids. So as we can see, this is a serious disease that is affecting millions and millions of kids. So it's why it's important to be educated on it. Some of the possible causes of obesity. As I mentioned before, adversity during childhood, so things like I said, poverty, racism, these can all affect your health in critical ways and increase the risk for obesity. An example I like to use for this is if your family can only afford McDonald's to feed your whole family because they have the cheapest foods, then that is what the kids are going to be getting. Another thing is ultra processed foods that can carry toxic substances like insecticides or plastics. This has been something that has been on the rise since the 80s, and that is also when scientists have noticed that obesity has started to increase as well, and they think it's due to how processed our foods are. And then another thing is that over 1,000 genes and variants have been identified that can increase a person's obesity risk. So these can be things before, like during pregnancy, or after they're born, I'm sorry. Things that we know that does not cause obesity for sure is a loss of willpower, which means not wanting to work out or not wanting to be active. I'm sorry, my turtle's over there. Next one is genes changing. We know that your genes can't change during your lifespan. So it means you are born with it if that is something, the reason that you have obesity is from your genes. Now, there's laziness. We know laziness is not the reason for 14.4 million children to be having this chronic disease. Same with gluttony. We know that being a glutton is not the reason for this to be affecting this many people in general. And then same with a lack of diet and exercise. It's not the things that cause obesity. Some of the potential harm of obesity is that there is a serious increase in some physical and mental health conditions. It has been seen by scientists that when you are obese on the BMI scale, at least you are increased risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, asthma. And those three are because of physical factors, and that can be dependent on where you carry your fat at, which we will get into later in this presentation. And then the last two, anxiety and depression, are also increased just because of how much stigma there is around obesity and how people do suffer with body image once they are clinically diagnosed with obesity as well. Now we're going to start talking about BMI and the definition of BMI. So it's a very simple measurement that just measures your body size and your weight. So you take your weight in kilograms, for example, 56 kilograms, and divide it by the square of your height in meters. And then you get a number like that is shown on the bottom right here, anywhere between even less than 18.5 all the way up to over 35. Most of the indicators of childhood obesity or overweightness come from a BMI, and that is typically how they just diagnose obesity, is by using this very simple measurement and saying you're obese. It is inexpensive and efficient, but it does not predict the overall health of someone. It just puts their stuff into numbers. And this is harmful because there are things like muscle can weigh more than fat sometimes. Sometimes you might just be shorter and have more stuff on you. I know for me personally, I have been categorized as obese, but it's because I am 5'5", but I weighed more because I lift weights a lot. So I know that took a toll on me because I was like, oh my gosh, no way I'm categorized as obese, but it's just because I got a 30 to 34 on this BMI scale. That's why I have a personal issue with it. The harm of BMI now is that the AMA suggests that physicians should also consider factors like their visceral fat, which is this fat that's stored in your abdominal cavity and around your organs. So this can predict someone's health, because if they have an excess of visceral fat, that can indicate a health issue. And that might not even show up on the BMI test. The next one is your body adiposity index. So this is a calculation between your hip circumference and your height. So it's kind of seeing if you are similar in those not similar, but if you are proportionate in those areas. But this one is also like the BMI, just a very simple one that doesn't get into the health of the person. Another thing is using the percentage of fat, bone, and muscle that someone has in their body, because that can actually indicate if they are having real health issues or if it is just that they weigh more. And then the last part is genetic and metabolic factors. So things like that could be thyroid tests, abnormal blood sugars. You could also look at insulin levels, things like that, to see if they are having health issues, and instead of just using the BMI. Some guidelines for treatment in children. So for ages 2 and older, they think intensive behavioral, nutritional, and physical activity support. So this means doctors supporting kids in every aspect of their life, and also having parents and family engaged in this. So getting them in activities, making sure their nutrition is right, and just making sure that they are on the right track basically for this young. For ages 12 and older, there can be more treatment like weight loss pharmacotherapy, and they also provide behavioral and lifestyle support like with the ages 2 and older, because it is still we can still, doctors can still help at this age. And then once you get to 13 and older with severe obesity, you can get referred for a surgery, metabolic or bariatric surgery. And they can also provide the same support that they provide for the younger kids, which is the behavioral nutrition and physical activity support. However, like I was bringing up earlier, how socioeconomic can be a huge increase for obesity is because many families and children do not have the right kind of access to this healthcare where they can get helped to with this complex disease, because it's not as simple as just working out and eating right in most cases. Some prevention efforts that are being made in schools and for children specifically is the first one is making improvements in schools and built environments. So this is with regards to nutrition and physical activity. So making guidelines for schools to have as well, not just for doctors to have, making guidelines for schools to do when they do have kids that are suffering from this or that don't have access to the right health care. Another one is increasing opportunities for exercise. So I know the school that I work at personally, we try to get the kids outside as much as possible so they can run around, because it's great for kids to be working out and just doing stuff outside and all that kind of stuff. But I know that that is a big prevention thing, is increasing opportunities for exercise so kids are not stuck sitting at a desk for 8 hours. The next one is addressing how food and beverage are marketed to young people, because I know I did an assignment in a different class about this, about how all the sugary, high fat, high carb, all the stuff that's not supposed to be good for you is colorful and vibrant and has their own mascots so that kids are drawn to them and parents will buy it for them because their kids want it. And so this is a big prevention effort, is to make sure that these food and beverages market schemes are not getting young people drawn in. Another part, improving access to nutritious and affordable foods, especially in low income communities. So that means food, if that looks like food pantries or other things like that, where families that cannot afford the best nutrition have the opportunity to, so that their kids do not fall to this disease. And then another one is ensuring that all families have adequate resources to support their children's health. So again, this goes with healthcare. We have crazy prices. A lot of people don't have the right healthcare insurance to get the support that they need. And again, brought up earlier, 14.4 million children and teens are suffering from this. I think that resources should be given to those families who cannot support their children in the right way. And this is a prevention effort, because the more families that have the adequate resources to support their children's health, the less kids that will be suffering from diabetes. Obesity, I'm so sorry. On the wrong page. And here's a list of my resources. If anyone wants to talk about this, you definitely can reach out to me. My email is sbrya7@uic.edu. And yeah, that's really all that I had for this presentation. I really enjoyed putting it together, and I hope that you learned something from this. So, bye.